Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Paranormal Lens. My name is Chad Thomas, and I'm here tonight with Jamie Widener and David Deromedi. We're talking about the Clifton Theater. Jamie and I got to go over and investigate the other night and had a good time. Pop up some pictures here. Just going back to the old theater. This is what it was originally built. Here's the inside of one of the renovations. Some of the old seating. Almost looks like there's a ghost in that picture if you look closely. Here's what it looks like currently.
Orbs?
Maybe
no orbs.
Some random shots here. Here's some shots that Jamie took the other night of things that I found interesting, at least. And this was our investigation crew.
How many people?
We had 8 people there. It was Jamie and myself, Chris Mendez, and Chris Hammond. Sorry, Jerry and Melissa, and Heather and Bert. So we had a nice small crew, but it went pretty well. We worked together pretty well. Let's see, and then the next thing is Clifton Paranormal. They are the paranormal group that is in residence at the Clifton Theater. Colin is their co-founder. We're going to bring him onto the broadcast tonight and talk a little bit about what we experienced and what some of his experiences have been over there. So, Colin, welcome.
Hello.
Hey, I know that guy.
Oh, it's me.
Welcome.
So how are you doing, Colin? How are things at the theater today?
Things are good. Sunday was incredibly hectic. We had a canned food drive for the Super Mario Brothers movie, and canned food drives are amazing, but they are incredibly hectic.
And that's after being there till 4 a.m.
Correct. Yeah.
So I guess that's a little bit of background. We started around 11 o'clock with our, we were part of your broadcast or part of your podcast recording. Mm-hmm. And then we investigated till about 4 a.m., several sessions in all the spaces. It was, I had a great time. I thought it was pretty interesting. So just stepping through some of the stuff that we found, if that's okay, just to jump into it. Okay. So there are 5 theaters in the space. Yes. We investigated several of them. We didn't get to all of them. So I'm just going to start at Theater 1. During the first session, I'm not sure who was in there. The notes were just that there were several blue anomalies on the screen. So we're not sure what that was. That could have been maybe lights reflecting off the screen because I know it's highly reflective, or it could have been something else. From 1 a.m. to 1:40, Jerry and Melissa were in there. And as soon as they walked in, I guess just to preface it, Melissa walked in and said, "Oh, I want to go find the grumpy old man." And Melissa,
I was in Baltimore.
Melissa walked in and almost immediately was told to get the F out, is what she heard. So that started the thing off, the investigation off. They said the LED strip went off when they asked for the grumpy old man. They have some LED strip lights that they're using. And I'm not sure if you know it, but Melissa's a little bit of a sensitive. So I'm not sure how much of this she interpreted or how much she heard, but she came up with, it bothers him when people call him that. He was a performer in the space at some point. He enjoyed working in it when it was only one room. They didn't come up with a definitive name, but they played sympathy towards him, and he really enjoyed that. So he maybe being a little more sympathetic to him instead of calling him grumpy all the time. You may get more information out of him.
Well, we call him the dirty old man. That is what we were prefaced with by another intuitive who had been there prior. Okay. And originally with do we want to talk about Theater 1?
Sure, yeah, because that's all the notes. We didn't have much other than that in Theater 1. So
Theater 1, now, and this is just as an employee working there, sometimes at nights, during the summer, I would, we have to go in and turn off the ACs, and during the winter we have to go in and turn off the heats. There are times where I'll open that front door to the theater itself, and it is so incredibly heavy that I tell another employee that they need to go into it, because I just don't want to go in there. The best way to give an example of it is that I've like back in the day for all of us, going to school and you walk in late and everyone turns to look at you. That's what it feels like. And it's very heavy. It's kind of gross. It feels like you're being stared at all over. So originally we had a medium there, Terry from Bearded Paranormal. And she had felt that what was in Theater 1, what she was picking up on anyway, was an entity that had never really been born. It was never human. It was never alive. She had felt that it had possibly been summoned. And with our research, we thought, it could make sense, because Freemasons met at the theater when it was the Huntingdon Opera House. And Freemasons back then were said to have met in very cloak and dagger. They did stuff that they don't do today, but stuff that was basically considered witchcraft in a sense. And was it possible they summoned something? Because above Theater 1, about 2 floors above it would have been where they met. They had an art gallery there when it was the Huntingdon Opera House. So the idea that this entity only hangs out in Theater 1, we never really met its presence anywhere else inside the building, for us anyway. I don't know. It kind of made sense. And then we had another psychic medium there who she had felt that it was what she deemed the dirty old man. And then when we started saying things like the dirty old man, we started getting more of it really coming out and kind of acknowledging and playing with the equipment and such. Ariel, the other co-founder of Clifton Paranormal, she is the general manager of the theater. She got grabbed twice on a tour. And I have been investigating with Ariel for a number of years now. And then of course, prior, I've never seen her get so scared ever. She flipped her lid when she got grabbed. And then I was given a tour to someone, and it was a kid's tour. The lights were on, and as you guys see, the lights are very bright. And it was this really nice lady with her 2 kids, and I'm talking to her, giving the history of Theater 1 and Andrew Gamble and all of that, and her head just kind of pulls back like that, and she thought her son pulled her hair. And so she told her son, she was like, "Don't pull my hair." And I was like, "No, ma'am, his hands were right in front of him the whole time." And so she got visibly shaken, and then her daughter started to cry, and she was like, "No, honey, it's okay. I'm joking. I'm kidding." And she pulled me to the side, and she was like, "My hair got pulled, and it was in a ponytail." I was doing a Phasma box session one time up in the office, and I was doing a TikTok, and I had asked if I can speak to the dirty old man. And clearly over the Phasma box, we get the word sound booth. So upon some further research, the Clifton Theater at one time did show adult films. And the sound and the movie were on 2 different reels. And there had to be someone in the booth to make sure that the sound and the movie were lined up. And is it possible that booth was somewhere in the back of the theater itself? Absolutely it is. So yeah, we just kind of call him the dirty old man, and he mainly messes with women. I have not found a man that he has physically messed with, aside from icky feelings.
Okay, interesting. David, do you have any questions?
Nope, just kind of taking it in. So it's the Clifton 5. So you have 5 theaters there, correct?
Yes, we do.
Yep.
I knew it was a multiplex. So, and I find it interesting that the Masons had an art gallery above Theater 1, and yeah. it really, when you get to the the feeling that this isn't something that has ever taken human form, almost nothing good comes of that. at that point, unless you're talking about like some type of an elemental or something like that. But if it's something that's summoned, there's never anything good when it comes to something that's never taken a human form.
Yeah, we've like I said, in theater one, we've had of of course, when it comes to old employees and things that they've said, it's I take with a grain of salt. I had an employee tell me that because I will say about theater one, the AC or the heater is electric. All the other ones and all the other theaters are manual. They're on the wall. They're the round one, but the one that is behind the screen in theater one is electric. I've done doubles. I've closed the theater. I've come in the next morning to open it, and I know that I've turned off that AC. I come in the next day, it's still on. And we're not sure why. That's the only one that they will physically mess with. We've had the radio when we used to have a radio playing spaz out in there. I had an employee tell me that when he went to go turn on the AC for the day, there's probably about a foot wide gap between the screen and the wall. He heard someone go, "Hey," right in his face from that gap, and the AC didn't get turned on that day. So everyone's experience is always a little bit different when it comes to theater one. And that, but also the thing about theater one is that sometimes when you first go in there, that feeling of it that is so different than all the other theaters is only there for a little bit, and then it just kind of dissipates. And sometimes it comes back within that time frame. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's something for the rest of the night.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, Jamie, we didn't get to theater one, right?
You and I did not. No, that's correct.
All right.
We were actually walking by, heading to theater two, when Melissa popped out to say what just happened about. He's told me to get the F out.
Yeah.
And she had a really incredulous reaction, like, "Can you believe that?" And then I think she was ready for a fight when she went back in. So it's good to see they had some more happen, some trigger objects and such go off. So it validates there's something happening in there.
David, I think a point of clarification is the Freemasons thing was not above theater two. That was in the building before that burned down. Am I correct on that column?
Correct. When it was the Huntingdon Opera House in 1865, I believe, when it was first built, as you guys saw in that first picture, that gate is what you enter to his own community. So there was a pharmacist, and there was stairs that went up to the upper floors. And there was like I said, there was a pharmacist and a grocer and a magazine, a newspaperman. And the stage was considered the second floor. Yeah, you would go in right through that little gate right there. And the stage was considered the second floor, and it was a raked stage. And then you had your third floor, which was almost like their YMCA, and it's where they had their meeting grounds. And then right above, or kind of right behind the part where it says the Huntingdon Opera House and stuff, there were apartments. That was kind of like their their fourth floor, where they had like small apartments. There were workers who worked there who lived in the apartments. I believe one of the managers lived there. And the college, Juniata, helped us out with some more research. And the manager and his wife had a baby in the theater. She was one of the ushers, and she worked, and she gave birth in the theater, and they named him after their colleague, who was also one of the founders of the theater.
Interesting.
Wow. Hey, something just struck me here, and Colin, you're there all the time, so bear with me on this. I think I'm right, but if I were to step out in front of the theater and look across the street, mm-hmm. where the Muddy Creek restaurant is,
yes,
where we all had dinner, nice place, recommend it. The architecture is there too. This architecture is on that building,
correct, with
the arch windows and the full brick facade and so forth. I remember standing there looking at it, going, "My gosh, that thing is half the block." On the other side, almost goes down to the corner, and it's certainly mid-block down. It's a massive building there as well. So there certainly was a style and probably some affluence in the community at the time to afford to put this kind of structure up, especially two of them.
Correct. There was the thing that we find interesting now. There's no pointing fingers or anything such as that, but the Huntingdon Opera House burned down in 1901. And what we found interesting was that the hardware store that was located within it, probably about 3 or 4 days before the theater burned completely to the ground, they moved across the street, directly across the street. And so we all thought, because everyone, in order to rebuild what we currently stand in, had to go to that hardware store to get tools and supplies. So we were like, detective, but there's no proof in it, just aside from that theory.
I found it interesting too. I mean, again, there's no proof that the next set of fires destroyed both theaters that was it Blackford owned?
So after it was originally, so it burned down in 1901. They rebuilt it roughly in about 10 years or so. It reopened in 1916 under new management that did not get named. I couldn't find the names of the people who originally bought it after it was built or rebuilt. But a man by the name of Andrew Gamble bought it in 1921. And Andrew Gamble decided that it was easier to produce a talkie than it was live theater. So Andrew Gamble got rid of live theater there in the theater itself, and he started working with talkies and single screens, or just one single screen. And under his management was Mr. Blackford. Mr. Blackford was one of the managers. Now, Andrew Gamble had he had the first fire after the 1901 fire that unfortunately really ruined the structure, the interior of the building, and he had to close business for about 6 months, and he had only been open for 6 months. He was putting all business to the Grand Theater, which sat behind that one, about a block and a half away. And he was having to push all business there. Unfortunately, he was just losing too much money, so he ended up selling it to the Blackfords. So they took residence, and they also had another fire. Now, thankfully, their fire wasn't as terrible. It was they deemed it an electrical issue. It kind of burned a little bit of the interior walls, but they'd have to shut down business.
Okay. All right. Well, now that we've covered some of the history, let's jump to Theater 2. In the first session, Chris and Chris were in Theater 2. They saw, this is really helpful. They saw a woman dressed in white visibly standing next to Chris. I'm not sure which Chris, but that's what they saw.
So they saw an apparition?
That's the note that I have on the paperwork.
Yeah, that would have been Mendez, because he actually took me outside to ask me about it. Okay. He was taking a picture of Hammond, and at that time he had seen what looked like almost a full wedding dress, is what he had described it as, of a woman kind of scooting by. And he said it was kind of the bottom of the dress that was very full, which we have seen that before.
Okay.
Interesting.
He said kids came through the recorder. They picked up on the following names: Elizabeth, Jimmy, William, and I know your one employee is going to love this, Kirsten.
Yeah, Kirsten. Yeah.
Kirsten is one of she's on your team, right?
Yes, she is. Yeah, Kirsten is our kind of historian / investigator. She gets scared very easily, very, very easily.
They also had some music box activity, and they said that the note was there was movement on the catwalk followed by "come upstairs." So I don't know if they were talking about maybe the boxes or if there is an actual catwalk in there.
Once you enter the theater, there are fake mezzanines on the left and the right, and you actually access them through. Once you enter the theater, the one on the left you access through Theater 1. To the left of the screen in Theater 1, there's an exit door, and it takes you down a long hallway, and there's a ladder that goes straight up, and that takes you behind the screen of Theater 2, and along that mezzanine, which is kind of a catwalk. There's a lot of sounding board up there and everything like that. And it's just basically a fake mezzanine that they had purposely kind of built up there. And that's not the first time that we've gotten activity up in that area. It's I can't explain the phenomenon myself, but but I've seen it multiple times, and I do know that if you were on the right side of the theater facing the stage, in complete darkness, from the far left mezzanine, you will see what appears to be, because there's a hallway light that is always on. And there is, when you go up the ladder, there's no door or anything. It's just one giant square cutout. So that light obviously bleeds up onto the fake mezzanine catwalk area. And you will see that light get blocked out, like someone is walking. And it just recently, I would say it started a couple of months ago. I had never seen it before. I never noticed it before. And we had a return group there, and one of their members was like, "Is that normal?" And I was like, "I've never noticed. I've never seen it. Couldn't explain it."
Interesting. Okay. So yeah, that was what we had in session 1 there. For the second session, actually, Jamie and I and Heather and Bert, the 4 of us went in the theater. We had a lot of cat ball activity from the start. We had the tripwire in the house right aisle. And it started slowly, but it became more active. And at one point, all the lights on the tripwire lit up. What else? We didn't have any direct responses to questions. Heather is also a sensitive, and she felt somebody came in and sat with her. Actually, listening to the recording earlier, she was on stage and she felt like she was being asked to sit down. And then she felt someone sit with her. And she said there were several times where she felt like she needed to applaud. Like she like actually started clapping. So it was sort of interesting. I didn't have anything on my voice recorders. We're slowly still going through all the material that we got. But I mean, it was an interesting experience. It just wasn't very active for us. Jamie, do you have any more feedback on?
Yeah, there's one thing I wrote the note on that, and there's one thing I just realized I omitted, and it's at the very end as we were leaving. Heather was sitting house right at the front row on the 3-seat end at the bottom, and she heard, in her words, the door rattle, the exit door, and it's a push bar, panic bar exit door, and I'm sure there's not a handle on the outside, so we checked it out, and Bert opened the door, and it just leads to a little landing spot outside with the exit to the hard right, and then steps to the left to go out to the street or to the alley level. And I'm standing there going, what could it have been? Because I'm seeing nothing that could have been pulling from the outside. And I kind of recall, there could be some transiency in the area or something. Maybe somebody was settling in. So I started to take I started to move toward the steps. And as I moved maybe to the bottom of the first or maybe got to the second step, the security light kicked on. The motion sensor light that's out there kicked on. So if somebody had already been there, that light would have already been on. So that led me to, we came back inside then, shut the door snugly, and tried to just push on the bar a little bit. And as soon as we did that, she's like, that's what I heard. So it sounded like somebody was trying to get, exiting the theater itself, by what she defined it as. So that was rather curious. Nothing to prove, unfortunately, we haven't listened to the audio enough yet to get to that point. So it's at the very, very end. If we even had anything on still, because again, we were getting ready to walk out.
Right.
But very curious thing to have happen. An audio sound like that's pretty obvious.
So we had 8 people. Was that 4 groups of 2 working together?
Sometimes.
I would assume Missy and Jerry, the 2 Chris's, Heather.
We were 2 and 2 and 2, because it's a lot of ground to cover. There's the 5 theaters. There is on the 3rd floor, there's the attic. There is a basement yet below everything. And then, it's just a lot of ground. So the first session, we were all in 2s. Second session, it was, there was a 2, 2 and 4. And then the last session, I believe it was all 2s again. And we still didn't cover it all.
No.
It's too big.
It doesn't feel like it's that big of, to me, now when it comes to theater 2, the name Jimmy Jones, is very reputable, especially in that area itself. Jimmy Jones was originally from Wales. he became one of the managers under the Blackfords. He moved to the States. He was in Kentucky. I'm from what his history states is that there was a show called Electric that he became a big fan of. He just kind of followed them around a little bit. They came into Huntingdon. He happened to be in Pennsylvania, and they had a falling out with one of the members, and they needed a tenor, and Jimmy was known as a great tenor. So he auditioned and he performed with the Electric for quite a while. And then the show closed out and he was left in Huntingdon, and he said, I really love this theater. I want to be here. So he ended up working under the Blackfords as one of the managers. Then he became the general manager. And we have 2 pictures of him there at the theater. One is with his wife, Pearl. And the other one is him changing the marquee outside. I believe we also have his obituary there as well, that our friend Lonnie at the Historical Society found for us. So that, having the name Jimmy was also known as the greeter. That is what his obituary said, is that people remember him the most because anytime someone came in, he was always the one to say hello. That was what he did for quite some time into his old age. We also think a lot of, when we were talking about the catwalk and stuff, in my mind, it makes sense. There was a man by the name of Edward Lorenz, who was the scenic designer for the Huntingdon Opera House. He designed all of the sets, and he did them in a space of a couple of weeks. And so they would train him in. He would stay in a hotel here in Huntingdon, and he would work on all the sets for their season. He would also do the curtains, and then he would train home. And in I believe it was 1899 or 1900, he worked his final shift there before training home, went to his hotel and died in his sleep. And they say he died due to gas exposure. They weren't sure if it was a leaky pipe or he just didn't blow out his candle that night. But we think Edward is still there working on stuff, because when you're in theater 2, we will hear taps and groans and just things that don't make sense, especially from an outside environment. We know it's not the wind. We know it's not rain or anything such as that. And they come from all over the workings of the theater 2 itself, where the stage is. So we think that's Edward.
Okay. Wow. All right. Well, we want to keep things moving because I know you have to get up early and work tomorrow.
I do. Yeah.
So jumping into, nobody was in theater 4 that I have any notes for, or theater 3 that I have any notes for. Jamie and I did the first session in theater 4. We had a bunch of flashlight hits. We had some tripwire hits, which we actually have 4 clips of that we'll play. We got yes and no direct responses to questions. I'm not going to go through all this because I don't want to give away what happens in the tripwire. So actually, why don't we just start with the first clip and I'll play it and we'll go from there.
Isn't it amazing how simple they are now? They just turn a projector on and they hit go, and the theater runs itself. The lights dim automatically. The movie starts. The previews start. The movies start. Much easier than I'm sure when you worked here.
So obviously we had a direct response to that. I'm not sure if your theaters are automated that way, but I know some of them are these days.
Yeah, they're digital. The lights, if the cue is added correctly, the light should go down once the movie starts. That's an if though.
Okay. So obviously we had a direct response there. Let me go ahead and play clip 2 for you.
Did you work here in the days when you had to actually fire up the arc projectors and keep that arc burning constantly?
Single.
Okay. That was a pretty definite hit, huh?
And a thump to my right again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Right.
That was a whole rainbow of just, I want a tripwire so bad.
That's my new favorite piece of equipment, actually.
Yeah. I saw it with another group at one point, and I was like, I want one, because they also use it in theater 4. and they were getting the same type of activity. Sometimes it was a single light. There was at one point to where it was almost as if someone ran down the aisle, and it started from the top and changed colors all the way to the down. So but for some odd reason, it's only in Theater 4 that we get that type of hits on equipment such as that.
Okay. Now we had two tripwires. We have a short one that ran across the front of the theater, and the long one ran down the aisle. So let me go into the next clip here.
Not even that so much. Sometimes it's just a matter of just getting into something other space, seeing a story versus reading a story.
Oh, you like that? Huh?
Yeah, I get that. I like to read a lot too. I realize.
Wow.
So that one was pretty.
What I really think is cool about this is, the tripwire is a purple idle light, and it can pop in that color, and it can then go blue, and then it goes red, and we were seeing all of the three spectrums popping on that transition down the line. That's a lot of energy happening.
Yeah.
A lot of
cool
response happening. It's not just a simple blurb. It was very intentional seeming.
Yeah, it definitely was interesting, and that's not even the best one. We saved the best one for last.
All right.
Wait,
So
there's more.
let me just play this, and yeah, we'll go.
This is the production team that puts it all together. Yeah, that was every single one, everywhere. Holy cow!
Are you involved with the production team?
So yeah, that was every single one on both strings, which are not connected.
Yeah.
And they all did the same exact thing. So talk about a whole lot of energy in there at one time. So that was definitely interesting.
This is why I feel like this evidence is really confirming my theory of that area where 4 and 5 are located, because it was part of the Huntingdon Opera House, and then after it burned down, that area was kind of used by shops, and then it just became a blank space. It was no longer used till Dave plexed it in the 90s. So I think that area was some sort of green room of sorts for the Huntingdon Opera House, just because there has been a lady who has been seen multiple times, and she's described as what to me sounds like undergarments of a woman, with that before she puts on her main outfit. It's always white with the shoulder. We know words fail me, but she's been seen multiple times. And then, like I said, on Saturday, there's been multiple times that we've been back there, kind of saying some unsavory things and maybe try to get a reaction. And we get them, we definitely get some hits when we say certain things. And having those strip lights go off of the way they did, it to me, it feels like there's multiple people there.
Right.
Like it is a green room or some sort of hangout space, or maybe it's a dressing room of sorts, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. The two other things that we had in there. Obviously, we had tons of tripwire activity. And Jamie, I had a couple notes that you hadn't put on originally. Jamie was sitting in the back corner, up against the exterior wall, and he, like the second row down, so the last row was behind him, and he heard like a noise, crinkling, something like that. And go ahead, Jamie. You were there.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I walked up the aisle, and I was trying to in that space too, on the back row, the first seat. I had a K2 sitting there, so I could see it down the aisle from the front. But then I also had a REM pod about halfway up the aisle on the left side, facing away from the screen, and away on the other side of the aisle from the tripod, the tripwire. And I was trying to, get those devices to go as well, because it's nice to have more than one device go off. Just that way, there's more confirmation. That's not just something that's anomalous or perhaps a malfunction. But as I walked back up, I was standing there for a little while at the top of the theater, and I decided to sit down. And after maybe 10 minutes, over my right shoulder, at what would be the back wall, there was a clear as day crinkling kind of rustle. And it was a little off-putting because I'm like, wait a minute, what this? And I turned to see if there's somebody had slipped in. One of our team maybe popped in, was just with us. There's definitely no one there. And so I mentioned it to Chad. It's in the on my camera audio. And then we finished the session, and as we were cleaning up, I'm like, I want to go see what that was. And I walked up, and maybe 3 to 4 seats in, there is a plastic wrapper of something on the floor. And I thought, well, that's interesting. So I picked it up, and as soon as I did, it made the sound. So I don't know what it was. I it's not documented. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten to my audio recorder yet to review that. But hopefully, I've got it. But it was so loud, that I can't imagine it wasn't. But there was a physical object on the floor that could have been manipulated by, hopefully, well, who knows what it could have been. We never know. It's a theater. There's loose food around it. Sometimes vermin happens, and not to imply that you have that, but you never know. So,
Never know.
but it could have been someone sitting there having a snack too, for all I know.
Right.
So quite interesting.
So,
the
only
only
other,
once,
what's
and
that?
there was an audible thump twice on that right-hand wall, which had been the outside wall of the building. That I've documented hearing it on the video that we've showed, but I didn't catch the thump clear enough to present it here.
Then the only other thing is there were 2 times where I got really like chills, like I don't know how to explain it, but definitely an energy. And they were wondering, when I was acknowledging that I'm a technician and I've worked in the theater and I understand this, it was almost like a hug, like that energy that that feeling, and it was just it was when we were talking about being in a production and when we were talking about running the movies. It happened both when we on those trigger things. So again, it's really sort of interesting. Moving into Theater 5, just Jerry and Missy were in there during the first session. They have a tool called an Aeroflux that they used that went off 3 times. They had some SLS hits. Their light grid went on once, and they also had a light anomaly during that session.
The Aeroflux, that's that new piece that Jerry got, the one that changes, that measures the pressure changes.
Yeah. Yep. So they got a couple hits on that. Then the only other things that were documented was Jamie and I went upstairs in the attic in the last session. We used the tripwire, the Phasma box. We had 2 K2s, a REM pod, a flashlight, and a spirit box. Had very minimal activity. We had some light hits on the tripwire, a couple flashlight hits. I took the spirit box with headphones over to the projection room, hoping to get something. I didn't hear anything. Maybe some music in the background, but I nothing clear. But I do want to. One thing that I felt. I'm working on my sensitivities as well. I felt a frustration at how their workspace is right now, because that room is full of old movie posters. There's not a lot of room to work around. So I felt like it's like there's this frustration of I can't do my job. I can't work. And then I was sitting on the floor, and it was like, what's this guy doing sitting on the floor? And it was just again, nothing that I can document, but it was just the feeling that I got. So
yeah. And I can say, Chad left the room. I was in the big room. He was over there, and the tripwire was having pops, but in intervals in different locations along the line of the short wire. And the Phasma box was definitely active the entire time. It just there wasn't anything that was abundantly clear or in context. Of course, I'm trying to do an EVP session, a call and response session, and I just didn't get anything there that was coherent enough to relate to what I was asking or trying to discover. But we did have 2. The flashlight was on the bookshelf. It's over in the corner. A quick pop the first time, but then more sustained efforts a time or 2 more. So it was definitely some stuff happening. It just wasn't really crystal clear, or obviously we want Class A everything, right? And
yeah, the attic is very much undiscovered for us. It was. The attic was Dave's, the owner, David Peoples. That was just kind of a space to put wherever, whenever, whatever. And then when we started doing the tours, probably after our first year of doing the tours there, we said, you know what, we really want to, document this attic space. Let's clear it out. And that's what we ended up doing. And I remember last summer and the summer before, I think it was last summer, Kirsten and I were actually up there, and we were clearing stuff out and moving stuff and sweeping stuff out. And she had gone downstairs. I did not realize she'd gone downstairs. And from that doorway that has another wooden steps that go up above theater 2, to where, because Chris Hammond was showing people around up there, and I was like, don't walk up there. I don't want anyone to fall through and to their deaths. I heard bump, 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 just down the steps, like someone very quickly coming down the steps. I assumed it was Kirsten because I was like, she wasn't in the same room as me. And I was like, Kirsten, where'd you go? And I opened the door and there's no one there. And then she calls from downstairs. And I was like, okay, cool. And then there have been, when we're up there recording for our podcast, we have gotten, I would say definitely Class C EVPs to where we're just kind of, BSing stuff that I can edit out later. And then you hear someone whispering and it's like, where did that come from? That was definitely not us. So that's why we do it up there.
Right. So that's pretty much what we have. It was an interesting night. I would definitely love to come back again. I'm sure Jamie, you would. David, I know you'd like to join us at some point over there. So yeah, I'm sure we'll be back.
Oh, good.
Definitely.
Good.
As long as it's not a foggy drive home, I'm good.
I appreciate you driving, Jamie, because that was pretty intense.
I'm still seeing fog.
But to make sure that the Clifton stays open, Colin, do you want to?
Yeah. So right now, we're struggling, unfortunately. And we do ask that if you could donate to our GoFundMe to really help, with things. And just to give everyone an idea, coming into a movie, the ticket sale basically goes to the production of that company. We get a majority of our sales through our concessions. That goes straight to the theater. If you guys donate through the GoFundMe, if you come into the theater, we do have a donation bin that's right there. And all of that, that goes straight to us. That goes straight to bills that, sometimes we walk in not knowing if there's going to be electricity or not. We don't know if we're going to have a system to print out a ticket for you or ring anything up for your concessions, because that has to be paid at certain amounts of times. And, we are struggling. A lot of people, we're just a 5-screen movie theater. We're not an AMC, but at the same time, that the Clifton is a home for all of us. And that is why it is so important to us. That we want to keep it, we want to, it's a Huntingdon staple. People have been going to the Clifton. I have a lot of older people come in and tell me how when there was a mezzanine, they would sit in the mezzanine. People from town come in all the time and tell us their memories of it from when they were kids. And that's something special, and there's not a lot of these types of movie theaters around anymore. And this is all Huntingdon has as far as a movie theater is concerned. We don't want to drive all the way to Altoona or anything like that to go see, I don't want to pay $25 for a ticket, which is what, but luckily, we're $9 mostly. And then we have seniors and children special as well. So it would mean a lot if you guys could really help us out and really save our home and our community.
And you are the last theater in the county, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yes, we are.
Okay. Well, we will definitely try to get the word out for you. Now, I'm assuming things like the investigations do help fund the theater as well.
Yes. So one thing that we do is that we will do lately what we've been doing, aside from having teams out there who investigate, privately on their own, they'll pay a different price, of course, because they get the full experience from a certain time to a certain time. But one thing that we do is that once or twice a month, we will have a movie and a tour. So we'll kind of pick a classic movie to show. I'm a theme person myself. So like we just did April's 1st, we showed April Fool's Day from 1987. And we will show like a classic movie. And then after the movie, we'll have a tour. And we usually go to about midnight, 1 a.m., just depending on the activity that we get. But we go over the history, we go over all the hot spots, and we take patrons to where they normally wouldn't get the chance to go as a regular patron.
Very cool.
So a lot of people love it. We get a lot of people out there who come and help. And so the money that we make from that goes straight to the Clifton. That goes straight into Dave's hands.
That's great.
Yeah, I think something is really important that's for those who are savvy, to consider you guys a small business, and a local small business at that matter. Even though it's a theater, and we tend to think of, you mentioned AMC, the big companies that are out there building the multiplexes now that are in parking lots and malls and big places that with lots and lots of access. I mean, this is a cozy location right downtown, and there's locations really close by for dinner and shopping and so forth. It can become quite an event, to get out instead of, going to those shiny places. And they're nice, don't get me wrong. I've sat in many of them, but there's a really lot of charm in an old theater.
And that's honestly why we started doing what we do as Clifton Paranormal. It's why we named it Clifton Paranormal, is because, Ariel and I had realized a lot of the activity that happens as employees, we experience it every day. And we said, you know what, let's start tour. We actually started tours before we named ourselves. And we started tours in the middle of October. And they flew. Like, I did not know how many people in town wanted to tour this place as much as they did. It was right after COVID. So we were like, oh, this is becoming a big thing. So we named ourselves after where we started, which was the Clifton. And that's our handle for everything. If anyone wants to check us out on like TikTok, it's Clifton Paranormal. Ariel and I are starting, Ariel, Kirsten, and I are starting a podcast called Voices in the Attic, where I'm working on getting the first episode out. I'm saying myself June, like it's got to be out by June, because we want to get out there just like you guys and have people basically just kind of talk about what we're doing now, like paranormal experiences that are happening in the world. And then also the idea that maybe you guys will hear something that we don't as an EVP that was not us. So there's that catch, is why we call it Voices in the Attic. So that is, but everything that we do benefits the Clifton. That is something that we made a pact for. No matter where we go on this journey of Clifton Paranormal, that theater is our home, and everything we do impacts that theater. And that's where we want our findings and everything to lead back to, is the theater. We want more people to come to Huntingdon to go, I want to see that movie, or I just really want to see that space. It's a historical place.
Well, I applaud you and your efforts, and good luck with the podcast.
Thank you.
Do you have any more questions for Colin? I know, Colin, you've got an early morning, so we don't want too much longer.
I just want to note that you didn't say which June. You just said June.
Oh, no. Well, the funny thing is that we were supposed to have it last year in June, and it got backburner. So this June is what I'm looking at. I am looking at this June, and you guys will be getting tons of emails from me just for equipment purposes and all of that, because it's been a little difficult for me to find other people who work in the because I think as anyone in today's day, you have to keep on what's trending or what's this or what's that. And podcasts are where it's at. I know, in my job, I listen to podcasts 95% of my day. It keeps everything smooth and going, and it's great. So, we just got to hop on, and it's great.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to add that, and I think this is an important comment, because, when in the paranormal field, there's a lot of competition, if you will, for time and space, right? And locations, but one thing that I think we believe, and I'm speaking for you gentlemen, bear with me, but, we are friends of other groups who are, in the spirit of us, out there and working, and you have, we're also a resident team, at Booby's Brewery here in Lancaster. So, we understand you because of having a residency at your location, and the inherent challenges that come with it. And the camaraderie and the friendship and the connectivity between teams sometimes gets lost because, there's proprietariness and closeness. And I don't think that's the spirit of any of us. And we're certainly always willing to help and have a conversation or whatever. So, and obviously you're welcome to come join us down our way anytime.
Oh, we plan on it. Ariel and I've already been talking about coming out to the brewery at some point here, once we've got some things. I will say that's also the harder part sometimes about having your own location and also having everyone works. We all work there. And Ariel's the general manager of it. So it's kind of like us finding that schedule. We love going to other places. It's just unfortunately 95% of the time we only get our own place. Because of schedule. So when we have an opportunity to go to other places, we take up on it. We go. We're excited.
Absolutely, and you need to get away once in a while to appreciate your space too. It's a change of pace, refresher, just to interact with each other and other teams. Even us as members of our team, we do our space, and we have a routine there. To get out and come to a new place, we get to branch a little bit more. And get to try some new equipment, perhaps, that we don't get to use all the time. So that's always fun. So I really appreciate you for saying that.
So one question I do have is, what was what was the most utilized pieces of equipment? Were they touch, like at the brewery, they enjoy the touch pieces, or was it like the proximity pieces, like the tripwire, or and anything like that? I'm always curious about that.
I think it was proximity with being the tripwire and the cat balls. So a little bit of proximity, a little bit of touch, and flashlights. Does that seem right, Jamie?
Yeah, I agree. It was interesting because there were multiple devices going off, and sometimes like you saw with our clip, the flashlights at the stage, on the table, and the tripwires are on the floor, but all of them in various times went off on their own. The cat balls definitely were a thing in theater too. Tripwire again in the attic. So every space we had it out, it was used. And I commented on this in the first session. It's not on audio that you've seen, but like I would assume that the entities or whatever is there have some familiarity with equipment because the space is used so frequently for as investigator space. And it showed. And when you go to a new place and it's unexplored yet, you shouldn't expect anything. Because you're kind of teaching, if you will, the whatever is present, how to do the stuff that you're bringing because it's new to them. A time or two in, that's the redundancy of having the same location. You get to share that equipment over and over and over again, and therefore you should start to see engagement with it. Right. We could speak to that at the brewery for sure for us, and I was assuming the same there, and it's an assumption I maybe shouldn't have made, but it certainly paid out with the equipment that was going off on a regular basis in all the spaces.
All right. Well, why don't we, if it's okay with you, Colin, we're going to jump into what we've got coming up. So maybe you'll see something you want to do. Jamie, can you run with this?
Yeah, I got my glasses on for this one. So our upcoming schedule on the 29th, the 22nd, which is coming up really close to this episode. In fact, we're probably beyond it, so I'll skip that. We are at the Burlington County Jail Museum out in Burlington County, New Jersey, a very old property that was a very active jail with a courthouse, I believe, attached to it. So huge space to cover. We're there with JOTT-Nyx New Jersey, our sister team, and quite a few members of our base JOTT-Nyx team. After that, we were back at the brewery on the 6th of May. That is a public investigation. Tickets are still available for that event at the brewery's website. Or the link below, so come out and join us there. We have a pairing with JNP and Dover Paranormal on the 13th. That is a unique experience to get to investigate with another team that has reserved the building for the night. Back to the 20th of May, there's another public opportunity. So a couple open dates in the month of May. And then a little further out from that, basically every other weekend, we are doing public events through the summer. With an exception, I believe, of the Labor Day, Memorial Day and Labor Day weekends. There'll be breaks there. The tickets are available at saverstub.com, and come out and see us if you have the opportunity and be in the Mount Joy, PA area. A couple upcoming topics. So
some of these already have happened.
Yeah, some of these might have happened today, for that matter. It's yesterday.
Actually, David, what are you doing next?
The Shanley Hotel in Napanock.
Cool.
It's going to be one we're looking forward to. It's a cool place, and I'm excited to hear what you have for it, Dave. And we have a episodic program coming up that is now in post-production. It's called Ghostly Truth. It's a limited series by JOTT-Nyx Paranormal with our teammates Matt, Andrew, Courtney, and Justin. And more to come on this yet. I know we keep talking about it each week. It takes time to put these things together, so bear with us. I think the ends are going to justify the means of the time we're taking to get it right and get it fully produced correctly. So, but I know it's moving, and messaging and communication I've seen with the team, and I'm really, really excited to see what they've done. The first episode is going to be on a location called the Bainbridge Inn here in Bainbridge, PA. It's a river town right along the train line that runs through from the Chesapeake Bay up through the northern tier of the state. So a very active area. The establishments was built in the late 1700s, so it's been an active bar tavern location for close to 200 years, if not a little longer by now. So more to come. Bear with us. And then, of course, there's always ways to find us. So the social media spots, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube channels are all available. So please like us or subscribe to us for more content and opportunities to engage with JOTT-Nyx Paranormal.
All right, we're going to throw this up again.
Save the Clifton.
Save the Clifton.
Yes.
So, Colin, I just want to say thank you for joining us. I appreciate you spending the last hour with us.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
I definitely want to come visit again. So.
Oh, yeah. So. You're driving next time, Chad.
All right. Jamie, anybody have any final words?
No, I thank again, Colin. Thank you, thank Ariel for us, and Kirsten as well. Thanks for all the work you're doing, and keep it up. You're
Thank
doing
you
great
so
stuff.
much. Thank you, guys.
You guys are rock stars. We appreciate you.
So, all right. So until next time. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.